What's your best walk of shame story? Not me, but one morning in my city, the day after Halloween, I saw a girl walking down an alley with someone who had to be her mom. I know it was a walk of shame because she had a witch outfit on with 6-inch heels, wobbling around on a brick road. The mom was a shorter, conservatively dressed, annoyed looking mama, helping her balance. A short walk of shame to a minivan ride of shame. Brutal. She must have forgotten to bring the broom. In college, woke up the next day after a party across campus, walked back to my house. Voting was a thing that day, lots of students out encouraging to vote. I walked into a campus building, interacted with lots of people, voted and left. Got home to realize a big dong drawn in Sharpie on my forehead, was wondering why people were looking at me funny. When I decided to stay all night at FWB's house, I wasn't thinking about the fact that the Chicago Marathon route went right in front of my apartment building. I found myself on the opposite side of the street from my building, unable to cross due to the constant runners. I asked an officer how I could get across. He said, "You're going to have to wait for a small break and run with them until you can get to the other side." So, I waited until there was a slight clearing in the number of runners and ran out into the street. There I was, running with them in my high-heeled boots and skirt that I had on the night before. I only had to run with them for a few feet to make it across, but it was embarrassing as heck. Luckily the section of street I lived on in the south side wasn't a popular place for people to watch the race from. I'm trying to picture myself clod hopping across, trying to go as fast as the runners and falling because I only had one of my shoes on. Giving me great belly laughs here. Thank you. I was working at a cheap hotel a few years ago, and this dude arrived for his reservation and wasn't satisfied with the room. Housekeeping was terrible at this location. We had this happen a couple times a night honestly. The dude was furious and yelled at my manager in the lobby for a while before packing up his family and taking them to the crappier motel next door. A few minutes later I see him walking back over to us, head down. He then comes up to the front desk and asks me if he could check back into the room. This happened pre-walk of shame. So one time my friend John and I drove a couple hours to Boston for an old friend's birthday party that we hadn't seen in a while. It starts as a house party and after that sort of dies down we decided to go hit some bars. I hit it off with a girl, so we broke off from the group and stayed the night at her place. Next morning I wake up, get dressed, and head out into the kitchen. I almost crap a frickin' brick because who is sitting at the table? Frickin' John. We, completely unknown to each other, went home with girls who happened to be roommates. Today, I walked through my college campus wearing nothing but overalls, cut off mid-shin and a Mario hat in the rain. I went out to a Halloween party as Mario, ended up at a friend's house throwing up in his sink. Woke up with no idea where the rest of my clothes went but knew I had to get to my dorm, a mile away, to get dressed for class. Unfortunately, I made this walk in between classes so plenty of students saw defeated Mario. A defeated Mario. Sounds like it should be a euphemism for something. Sitting on the curb looking a hot mess waiting for my Uber when the guy I just hooked up with strolled by with his friend to go play an early game of tennis. Personally not mine, but my roommate apparently did a mile-long walk of shame dressed as a bandito wearing the usual accoutrement, sun pants. He had a longish poncho on so it covered up his tamale. He was lucky not to get discovered by campus police though. The topper was the main elevator at the dorm, was one of those big freight jobs and was loaded to the gills with students going to morning classes. The doors opened and about 25 people caught sight of one guy walking to the stairs wearing one multicolored poncho, one sombrero, a couple of bandoliers, no pants, cowboy boots. He didn't live it down for a year. Hola, amigos. I was at a party where everyone dressed up as old people. I had a white wig and everything. At one point I traded my pants for bathrobe because why not? At the after party someone had popped a big moving box worth of popcorn. Because of that I'm never sensible enough to stop partying. I was the last one to go to bed at that party. I slept in the box of popcorn. It looked a little weird the next day on the bus ride home when a guy without pants dressed as an old man with popcorn everywhere was trying to survive a hangover. I think it looked like I was a confused old man that had escaped from the old folks home. It looked a little weird the next day on the bus ride home. As a frequent bus rider, that barely qualifies as little weird. College. Typical, not frat, house party, gym bros and yoga hose theme. My friends ripped my shirt off mid-party because testosterone and alcohol. Wearing nothing but gym shorts and joggers running shoes. Somehow managed to still get laid. To wake up next morning and frantically look for clothing. Didn't find my shirt. This is when I remembered some cartoon I saw a while back of a woman getting locked out of her house in underwear. Her friend is jogging by and convinces her to jog alongside to avoid embarrassment. I decide that is a perfect solution and begin jogging back to my apartment on the other side of campus, pretending to be out for my normal morning routine. It's maybe -1 out, nipples able to cut diamond, jog past someone in long spandex, sweater, gloves, and earmuffs. Totally worth it. TLDR. A cartoon told me to risk hypothermia so I didn't have to ask one night stand for clothing. After a night of drinking at a bar, one of my friends decided that she was gonna make everyone pierogies. I was upstairs and had no idea she was cooking until I heard a scream. I ran downstairs and there she was, with a wok on the stove and flames rising from it steadily, licking the ceiling. I yelled for another buddy to open the Juliet balcony we had next to the kitchen. I grabbed the flaming oily mess by the pan handle, trying not to spill the flaming oils as I carried it to the balcony and tossed that sucker right out onto the paved alleyway below. I burnt my hand doing so. A few burn marks were formed around our kitchen. Our house had come very close to being a fire scene because of drunken pierogies. Anyway, the next morning she went out and collected this misshapen, now destroyed wok from the alleyway. I always refer to this as her wok of shame. You did like everything you're not supposed to do with a wok fire. My fiancée was walking back from her then boyfriend's frat house on a crisp, full Friday morning, complete with the previous night's apparel, fishnets and a rag top, carrying her heels, some sort of theme party. As she walked through a section of buildings on campus as a shortcut, she encountered a tour group and tried to heel toe by with her head down. As she is making her way as quickly as possible, trying not to bring attention to herself, the girl leading the tour says, "Everyone say hello Holly," and about 45 sets of eyes pan to a scantily clothed 20-year-old woman running away from campus as quickly as possible. The tour guide was a sorority sister and doesn't let her live that down. Oh, that's just cruel. I love it. During the beginning of my freshman year of college, I was sleeping with a guy for a couple of weeks. Let's call him Matt. We weren't dating, just hooking up, but both realized that we weren't really compatible outside of the bed, so we moved on. During finals week in the second semester, I hooked up with a great guy and was massively hungover, doing the walk of shame across the quad back to my room. It was a sunny, clear May morning. I had cigarettes and was patting down my pockets looking for a lighter when I stumbled across Matt, also doing the walk of shame and massively hungover, having a nick fit because he lost his cigarettes the night before when he hooked up with some girl at a party. He had a lighter, I had cigarettes. We sat down and had a smoke, then completed the walk of shame back to our dorm, telling each other to have a good summer when he got off the elevator on his floor. What a carefree time of life my first year of college was. A nostalgia. Hooked up with this guy, realized I wanted to leave, but didn't have my car with me and it was 5 AM, so I laid there. He woke up and went to the bathroom, and for some reason I thought this was my chance to leave. So, I decided to climb down from his balcony and walk 2 hours home with my dress on, and bra and underwear in my hands. And I was barefoot, because I forgot my freaking shoes. Menacey kids were all about me during that long walk. Well, there was that one time I dressed as Catwoman for Halloween, which was a Friday, slept at a friend's, then had to walk of shame back to my dorm on a football Saturday. I went to a Big Ten school, so there were a lot of people out and about. Wasn't really a walk of shame per se, but still one of my funnier college experiences. Was at a football tailgate sophomore year and got absolutely hammered, like blackout before the game even started. My friends somehow walked me into the game, but apparently I left after the first quarter. The rest of this story has been filled in by other people because I don't remember it. Apparently, I stumbled out of the game after the first quarter and puked in a trash can in the stadium, lol. A security guard apparently asked if I was okay and that he was going to get a cop. I guess I told him to frick off and started running away. I was drunk and underage. Some random girl at this point told the guard that she knew me and was taking me home. Apparently this girl lived on campus and walked me to her dorm. She let me sleep it off on her couch. I woke up around 9 PM with no idea where I was, but still kind of drunk hungover. Awesome girl explains everything and I thank her 10x over. Anyways, there was an after party that my friends were at. They were my ride home. So I guess half drunk me ordered 5 pizzas, gave one to the girl who saved me, and walked my butt a mile or two over to this party and arrived with 4 pizzas to the delight of the crowd. The next morning really sucked. Was out with my best friend one night. We both hooked up with some people at the end of the night and went our separate ways back to our respective hookups places. The next morning, we both spotted each other in a parking lot of an apartment complex. The women we hooked up with lived in the same building, but didn't know each other, and my friend and I ended up leaving at the same time. High fives were had and we enjoyed our walk home together. Our school was notorious for seagulls. Thousands of kids littering all day must have seemed like paradise for them. They pretty much took over the entire school. Somebody being crap on by a seagull was an everyday occurrence. In the end, people were just so used to it that people didn't really bat an eyelid, unless it was comical in some way. I was walking to lesson with my buddy. I felt something hit my back. It felt like a friend had come up and slapped me on the back to say hi or whatever. I turned around and there's nobody there. I turn to my buddy and his face is in shock. He's pointing at my back and I can see him charging up to let out an almighty laugh. I take my jacket off and see what's up. At this point my friend can barely breathe. He's causing a huge scene. Everybody is freaking looking over or crowding round to see what's up. This bird crap on my back was this size of a freaking dinner plate. To this day I'm still convinced that it must have been an eagle or an albatross or something that did this to me. I had to walk to my next lesson with my jacket at arm's length, with people following me and laughing their head off. Frick that bird. In middle school I had khaki pants on. Thought I had to fart, but it was actually the beginnings of liquid diarrhea and it happened while walking between classes. I went in the bathroom and tried to clean up in the stall, but it was already too late. The crap had seeped through my undies and all on the back of my khakis. Walked straight out of the bathroom, mid-period, so no one saw. Out the door and walked home without telling a soul. I lived about 3/4 of a mile away from school and had to walk a main street to get home. Most shameful walk of my life. Can only imagine how many people drove by and saw me walking with my crap stained pants along the main street. I want to tell you that nobody remembers seeing that, but let's be real. There's some dude out there who brings up khaki crap kid with his friends every few months. In college I went to a Halloween party dressed as one of the Zoltan guys from Dude Where's My Car. Basically shorts, wife beater and a bubble wrap jumpsuit. I ended up hooking up with a girl a couple blocks from my house. Now, in order to get said hookup done we had to destroy the bubble wrap suit equals. I know. She also happened to be a terrible scratcher. So the next afternoon I'm walking down the main drag toward my house near campus in shorts, a wife beater literally covered in blood down the back, and carrying about 3 pounds of bubble wrap in 30-degree weather. I ended up getting a couple round of applauses from neighboring houses accompanied by some beers. Zoltan. Was at an animal themed mixer one Thursday night, with a test the next morning, so I was mostly just hanging out talking. One thing leads to another and I end up going home with this girl, waking up 10 minutes before my 9 AM test and walking across campus reeking of sex in a moose costume to take it. Animal themed mixer, reeking of sex in a moose costume. Woke up in dude's apartment, realized I was 1 hour late for my campus gyno appointment. I walked to the campus clinic and went to appointment in last night's clothes. Nurse gave me a year's worth of birth control in a bag and said, "You need this." Said, "Thanks." and then I walked back to my apartment with my loot. Was walking home after spending the night with a FWB. On the way home a car full of girls started catcalling me. I still remember that moment quite fondly. It was a decade ago. Made great friends with a dude at this party the night before. We both separately take home girls on opposite sides of our college campus. Morning after I'm walking home about 8 AM and cross paths with my new best bud, so I ask walk of shame, to which he responds, "It's not a walk of shame if they were a 10/10, it's a walk of glory. Been using that term since." Stride of pride. I'm American. Went to Scotland and stayed with a family that was on an adorable tract of land. There was this grandmotherly mom, her daughter, and her son. So me and the daughter hit it off, and even though she was going to be sleeping downstairs, she was going to be hanging out with me and her brother until later anyways. Well, we were drinking and smoking hash. The brother gets sick and heads to the bathroom. He goes to bed after that, so it's me and the girl. I was a virgin at the time. We lay on her bed and within 5 seconds we're making out. After that clothes are coming off, then we're banging. And not quietly either. I had never had sex before and my animal brain wasn't thinking about anything else, like her mother downstairs. So it gets later and later. The mother starts screaming for the daughter to come downstairs, which she ignores because I'm balls deep. So yeah, we fricked all night long and I pass out naked. In the morning we hear her mother coming upstairs. Stomp stomp stomp. Shouting her name every step of the way. She barges right in as the girl gets to the door in a robe and tries stopping her. Doesn't quite work. So I do what any competent 18-19-year would do, getting caught naked with the daughter of your host in a foreign country. I played dead or asleep, but I felt like dying. Then the mother says to her daughter, "Oh Heather, what a beautiful man." Mum, get the frick out. God, breakfast was so freaking awkward. All of that. Everything about that day was shameful and I walked sometimes. So I'm calling this story my walk of shame story. You humble bragging mother. S. Met a guy on Tinder who insisted he picked me up instead of me driving my car there. We proceeded to his house where we got very drunk and had lots of sex. At one point he went to get us tacos while I was sleeping on the couch. I woke up an hour later. He wasn't back. It was weird because Taco Bell was just down the street. I went back to sleep. Woke up another 2 hours later. He still was not there and it was now dark outside. I texted him and he said, "Oh yeah, I went to my parents' house." He had left me in his apartment by myself with no way to get home. I had even forgotten my wallet, so I couldn't get a cab. Had to call my roommate to buy me an Uber from where she was. Also I got my period that morning on his couch. Frick that guy. The last day of Lollapalooza 2017. I'm a 22-year-old country boy who has never been in a city bigger than Columbia, SE, and had never been to a concert in my life. Everything had been wonderful until my best friend's girlfriend got caught sneaking my flask in on the last day. The flask was painted from a date to a fraternity function and had sentimental value. The security guard told me if I chugged the contents, I could keep it. After gagging through this awful girly vodka, dude man says I can't get it until after the festival. Well frick. I try to purge my stomach but I end up blacking out pretty quickly. I had planned on meeting up with a fling from college at the festival, but I was so fricked up. Somehow they found me and hit me with QB sneaks, thinking I would be okay with it without knowing my fricked up morning. Drugging people with a queeb or a quarter of a bar. I don't remember anything until the next day. I wake up on a couch with this Indian girl who turns out to be my old fling's roommate. Phone dead. On the opposite side of Chicago. Needing to get back to my friends by 9 AM or be stranded. The two girls got in a big fight when I woke them up because things didn't go according to plan for the girl who drugged me. So I got no help from them. So basically I had to find a store to buy a phone charger. Find another store to let me charge it long enough to call an Uber. Have the Uber drive me to the train. And make it through the hour-long train ride with the worst hangover of my life. Worst part of it all, I hadn't showered. After 12 hours of raging, alcohol, concerts, and sex, I smelled like a wastewater treatment plant. That poor Uber driver. Those poor train passengers. I'm sincerely sorry, Chicago. I love you. That may very well be the first time anyone has ever apologized to Chicago. Just over a year ago I got a cheap £1 vibrator stuck in my butt after a heavy night out. Thought I would get a little freaky before I went to bed, but I ended up getting a little too freaky when I could get the vibrator out. After a good 2 hours in a shower trying to get the bad boy out, I admitted defeat. I went out for a cigarette, and while I sat in the floor and could still hear the faint sound of the vibrator deep in me, I got into bed, and after an hour or so of tossing and turning I decided that I should just go to A&E and get it out. I arrived at what must have been 4 or 5 in the morning and was greeted by 2 ladies. After asking what was wrong with me, I explained what had happened and decided to be perfectly honest about it, cause they will probably find out one way or another. After 5 minutes of explaining and hoping they could help, they told me that A&E could not help and that I would have to go to a real hospital in the morning. Defo the weirdest walk of shame I have ever had. In my city Ottawa, there is a very long canal that freezes over in the winter and is turned into a 10-kilometer long skating rink. One evening, I go to meet a guy I had been on a couple of dates with. This guy was working in Ottawa on a consulting contract, so I had no expectation of anything serious. We meet up to go skating. He rented some skates, then go for a drink after. Then we go back to his hotel room and hook up. I stay over, but then get woken up by his alarm at 5 AM. He's a real type A guy and says he's going to body pump or something like that and that I should join him. I was like, holy crap, it's early. No thanks, I'm going home and sleeping for another couple hours then going to work. So I go outside his hotel, which is right in front of the canal, and I realize my apartment is just a couple of kilometers down, also by the canal. So I put on my skates at 5 AM and skated home. TL. DR. I did a skate of shame. Because Canada. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.